So you talk about the exponential growth. What, like, I'm curious. We haven't chatted about it. Normally we talk about this daily. What's been going on? What do you feel like is evolving for you?
Um, I may have talked about this on here, and the only reason why when I say stuff like that, it's just because I have so many of these kinds of conversations. I'm fortunate enough to have conversations like these a lot. Um, but talking like I talk with Tommy about this all the time. Just being a certain way, being how you need to be when you need to be it. Um, because like we joked around last year anyways, just how there's four coaches and one guy always seemed to be a little bit pissed off, and it just seemed like to add balance to the whole situation, right? So we always joke around that one of us has to be pissed off at all times. But when for me personally, I'm somebody who likes to talk. I like to be insightful, and I can definitely be a little bit long-winded with some of my messages that I'll give to players, which is fine. I am completely comfortable doing that as long as I feel that the attention is there and that there's a message, and I try to be as concise as possible. But Tommy's the same way. I would say Tommy's probably even a little bit more so, connecting things to life and everything. I think he does such a good job of that. So, for example, if we're talking at practice to the team and he's having one of those long, kind of drawn out, connecting life to baseball, and he says a billion times, he'll say it a billion times more. It's not always the result, it's how it looks, so to speak. We might not say anything after that. You guys got anything else? No. Or, you got anything else? And then you might say one thing, but you don't want to then try to not one up, because that's not what we're trying to do, but then sit there and have another long discussion with the guys.
I was just gonna mention that it's like in those moments, I'm always aware of the attention span
Yeah,
of the audience.
100%, 100%. Which is there's nothing. I'm not big on the whole. Oh, it's these kids. No, no, it's not. It's just, dude, we're here to do things. Like it's like having a discussion with a 10, 11, 12 year old in a lesson where you're trying to like draw connections between what it is you're physically trying to do and what your mental approach is. The kid just wants to freaking hit baseball sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's what every kid wanted to do. It's like we lose sight of that sometimes. But to bring it back to the improvement as a coach, it's just I went from being an assistant coach to a travel baseball head coach to an assistant varsity coach, also still doing travel baseball as a head coach, to becoming a varsity head coach, and and it's like now you go back to the role of assistant coach. You need to be what you need to be when you need to be it. Just to put it simply, you can't be having the same not the same type of discussion, but you can't be taking the same approach that Tommy's going to take right after he just took it. There are days where he doesn't have much to say, and then if I want to have some longer winded discussion or something, then I'm going to do it. And Tommy does a great job, in my opinion, of allowing his coaches to coach the way that they want to coach. You don't feel pressure to be a certain way underneath him, which I think is such a compliment to the way that he is. He allows his players and his coaches and just the people in his life to be the way that they are. But even watching him, dude, throughout the years, like he's not the same all the time, which is good, you know. And him and I talk about this all the time. We talked about it on his podcast again, so I'm rehashing again. But he, him and I talked about when we sat down to talk about me coaching at St. Joe's. We talked about the cycle of player, the personality, the characteristics of the player change, right? It changes like every 4 or 5 years. The characteristics and kind of archetype or social qualities are just different in players. And you can't just be the same way all the time. That concept of constant improvement, constant adaptations, hitters adjusting to pitchers and vice versa, and us adjusting to the game in the form of a pitch clock or, the torpedo bats. So us as coaches, we need to do the same thing. You did the same. You had this same kind of realization when you spoke about that. Hey, I need to freaking connect more with the Latin baseball players. I got to learn Spanish. That's you. That's you being what you need to be when you needed to be it. And I'm not going to step on your toes too much, but when you shared with me the other night, you're in. This is the one of the only things that we talked about in regards to work stuff. Pitchers listening in on your conversations with hitters. And these Latin pitchers don't even know you speak Spanish, and then I'm sure that their perspective of you changed. Hearing you speak Spanish, which is cool.
Yeah, that was speaking in front of a group of players I've gotten good at over time, as we both have, just from doing it, and then learning to have that conversation in Spanish in front of Latin players I've gotten good at or gotten better at from reps. But then doing that in front of an audience of pitchers who the message wasn't, it was just pitchers kind of listening in on something hitters were doing. Now I'm speaking my second language in front of people that don't know. So it's like, I don't know, you feel more judged.
Yeah.
Not by them, but when when you speak to anyone new, you're much more aware of like what you're saying, how it's coming across. You're trying to figure out what they understand or don't, and how you're sounding and all that. So
it's interesting, that concept though, dude. Like the idea that your perception of what you're conveying is so different when you're around a newer crowd,
or even just a different like aggregate.
Yeah.
So I've noticed this last year. We would do some staff meetings, and in the room was the manager, call it the development coach, basically like infield defense base running coach that coaches first during the games. We had the hitting coach of the team. I was a hitting coach, but more so working with rehab. We had the hitting coach of the team athletic trainer, the pitching coach, mental skills. I'm not sure what the title is, and then life skills / English teacher. So like all these people that one-on-one or in groups of 3 or 4, I've been completely natural and fluid with them. And then we all get in a room talking about players that we've already had conversations about, and suddenly I'm like nervous. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, and it's just the extra eyes, dude.
Yeah, I guess, but it's not the number of people. Because like
how many times do you do that on a regular basis? That's really why.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Exposure therapy. Put yourself in large groups of people and just fucking talk to them. Go to a coffee shop and just be like, hey, I got something to say.
You'll find that advice somewhere. Well, yeah. It'll find you, actually. It's actually thrown at you.
Yeah.
Just go to a bar by yourself. Don't drink. Talk to strangers.
That shit's good, though.
I wrote down... It is. Sadly. Not sadly. It's just uncomfortable. But I wrote down when you said you can't be the same all the time.
Yeah.
And I haven't been... This is why I love conversations with you. I haven't been thinking of that directly, but it's been kind of on my subconscious for a while. Of, like, when I'm in a cage environment, or I'm... Like, basically, depending on the context, I'm kind of a certain way, and I'm pretty consistent with how I show up, which I think is good. But there are times, and our manager does a really, really good job of this, there are times when you just have to do something different and kind of change the tone.
Yeah.
Like, if it's called for. That's something you're also good at. And that's an improvement point for me.
I think it's just, I don't know. Like, is that fun? You know, is it? I get there's something to be said for consistency, and showing up in a certain way all the time, but I don't know. Is that fun? It's got to be fucking fun. It's baseball, you know. Even if you're putting it into a normal setting, you know, you have a regular 9 to 5, and like, you don't want to fucking go on a walk every once in a while and look around, or go try out a new coffee shop, and because it allows you for those uncertainties, which are uncomfortable, right? But on the other side of it, it feels good. You know, you
Yeah,
have that new conversation with somebody, and at first it's like you don't know if this person's feeling you out. They're trying to
it
see if
feels
you're,
good, and actually similar to what you and Computer talked about. It you end up drawing connections that you
yeah,
might have not expected. Which reminds me of a story of actually a couple days ago where we the early part of the series we had a quick mini series of 3 games um, at home, and then we went on the road for 6. And normally the games are Tuesday through Sunday, 6 game series against the same team. It just eliminates travel and all that. So where after 3 games through the first series, and um, guys are just like we're late as a group, and the at bats haven't been very good, but it's just late overall, and so certain guys are having trouble getting on time. In particular, when we face a pitcher that's out of the stretch, has a slide step or a quicker move, and guys have just a little bit more of an intricate like loading pattern, and start struggling with it and whatever. Our manager has been working through the yips a little bit. He's making progress, which is why I feel okay saying it on the air. But he's working through it. So his when he throws, the throwing motion's fine, and the speed of the pitch is fine. It's accurate. But his like when it's going to come out is inconsistent. Um, so he was thrown in the cage just to work on it before we went in as a group. And so then guys came in like, all right, well, like let me hit off of it. And anyone that had like a very slow, drawn out, methodical load, they struggled because when the ball was coming out was inconsistent. So then uh, it wasn't planned, but manager was basically like, "Hey, like I'm hard as shit to hit off of. If like you got to figure this out. This is like a game. You know, if you get off me, you get off anything." And, like he made it like loose and really positive, and then it became a discussion point for me. It's like, okay, like watch him, and it's easy to focus on what's different. Where sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, sometimes the arm action's long, sometimes it's short. I was like, watch him and see when, like, what's the same every time. And if you look long enough, it's like by the time he gets to basically lay back when his arm's up and he starts to make a forward move, like at that point, it's pretty much the same every time. It's analogous to like once you put the ball in the machine, it comes out consistent. But
yeah.
if you vary how you put it in the machine, then it's the overall timing's different. But when the ball comes out, it's the same. Like to just make sense of it. So it's like so you need to the player. It's like you need to get into a position where you're ready early enough in case it comes out quick, but where if it doesn't come out quick, you're not just committing, which is basically timing of hitting in a nutshell. So it ended up turning into this really good drill, and a lot of guys cleaned some things up. Their moves got more consistent, and we had also been having timing discussions, but next 3 games, like guys are just on time way better. We're barreling balls, we're walking. It was good, and I give the manager a lot of credit for. He showed up in a different way. It was easy to be like, "Hey, this BP's not good. Why are we doing this?" And he turned it into like a challenge, like, "Hey, dude, like figure it out." And it then because I wasn't throwing, like I was able to talk to guys and kind of make it a like draw some connections. Um, and it wasn't planned, and it was way more impactful than if we just wrote down like, "Hey, timing practice."
Throw weird BP, it'll help. Trust me. That's cool though. I like that. I can't tell you how many times you get caught in discussions with players, dude. You know what that makes me think of is, and listen, I love our guys so much, but it's fucking complain about the pitching machine, complain about when we're doing dart BP because we do something called tunnel BP, which is we have the L screen close and your back of the turtle just to avoid fucking putting the ball up. So we're trying to get the ball out a little bit better, whether it's like low line drive, ground ball, just
Yeah, yeah.
because,
Yeah,
we've either,
I move the turtle up as far as I can.
yeah. And And it's just, I need to see longer arm action. I need to see arm BP. The machine is this. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, meanwhile, I see some of the best hitters out there. They're just like, all right, like, you know, in my worst times of throwing BP, because I've definitely struggled. You know, I've definitely struggled throwing batting practice. Still do sometimes. The better hitters just rake still. You know what I mean? Like, the better hitters just rake, and I'm like, all right, but why is it that when I face so and so who's supposed to be, you know, a good hitter, and all of a sudden now it's, oh, I can't do that. Like, what are you gonna wait for? You're gonna wait for the perfect day where, you know, you had your perfect breakfast and you're perfectly hydrated and the sun
difference
is,
between a good hitter and a good swing.
yeah, exactly,
Like
exactly.
if the swing's good, the move's good, the athlete's explosive, the whole thing, but the move is delicate or it's fragile,
Yeah.
then good luck.
I just, it just pisses me off to some extent. I get it, man. I played too, believe it or not, one time or another. But I come from the era where you had your one good BP thrower per like 12 coaches, and if you took more than 2 pitches in a row, the next one was going in your ribs, and if you took again, then you were just, all right, fucking next guy. You know what I mean? So, and I don't say that to say it like a crotchety old man or anything like that, but it's just, it's, you know, what are you going to customize the fucking pitcher on the mound that day and just say, I want this kind of arm action. I want a nice flat fastball that doesn't have any hop to it. Like, I just want it to just be nice and on the way down. And then he only can throw middle away, because if he throws too far inside, then I'm going to get jammed. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, the guy's supposed to be trying to get you out, believe it or not. And if the ball's not thrown in the same spot every time for BP, like, make an adjustment.
Yeah, and then at the pro level, teams are drafting guys that have weird stuff on purpose. Like, yeah, are we
No way.
looking for?
No way.
Whoa.
They want guys to get guys out? Weird.
You know, like the number on the radar gun, sure. The guy's throwing 96, 97. They're gonna look at him longer than the guy that's throwing 91. Okay, but if there's something unique, and I can't really go into too much detail, but if there's something unique about how the guy throws, how the ball's perceived, top secret. It's one of those things where it's like, I was actually thinking about this before, where it's not top secret in that there's, what I would have said, I bet you probably 20 organizations are yeah, of course, duh, we're pitching coaches, we know that.
But you don't want to expose it to the other 10 that might not be doing it.
Are there 30 college programs that probably know, of any level, that like probably are looking at all this stuff? Is it on Twitter? Yes. But are there teams that don't do it? Also, yes. So, and we play.
Stay in the dark ages.
So, yeah.
Stay in the dark ages so we could beat you.
Yeah. No. But yeah, so like, we're looking for stuff that's weird.
Yeah.
You know, like, is 100 miles an hour that's flat with a okay slider going to play? Like, yes. But there's some guys that throw 92, but it feels like 100. Or it's like 92, and for some reason guys can't hit it. You don't know why, or at least it's not obvious why. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, every guy that we're prepping the hitters for has something like different about it that we have to adjust.
Yeah,
our mindset or whatever.
It's good for them. The pitchers,
yeah, you have to.
You know, yeah. But it's just for the simplicity of it. It's if I can get you out by changing speeds on a fucking underhand flip, like, what are we doing? You know. But
that brings up the a quote that I got indirectly from Tommy Weber, who we might have on at some point, who says, if it says, "What are we doing?" you cross out what are we doing, and you say, "Yeah, what am I doing?" So if I can get this hitter out by switching up flips, it's easy to be like, what the F, you know, as a group, guys, come on. But it's like, what am I doing as the coach and person responsible for this?
Yeah. When you point your finger like this, there's some fingers pointing back at you.
I never heard that before.
Really? Jesus,
yeah.
Kyle. Wake up, brother. I'm sorry. What am I doing as a friend that I haven't exposed you to that freaking that
Taking,
ism?
sorry, I'm taking my watch off. I'm trying my best to cancel notifications, and my watch is still blowing up. So
Well,
it's
nobody's
just on.
blowing me up, so I think I don't know.
Yeah.
Just got less going on, I guess.
Uh,
But yeah, you know what? It's that. It's just the what I've found throughout our season is the simplest parts of the game are just what matters the most. You know, we can talk about the fact that having a good swing and approach is good, and it is. You know, it is important to be successful at the sport that we're discussing right now. But just doing your job in the easiest way, or just saying to yourself, like I bust Phil's balls so much. Phil's one of the other assistant coaches at St. Joe's, and when guys are flying out a lot, he comes over and he goes, "Are they going to try to put the ball on the ground? Don't they know that they've flown out?" And I'm like, I think we know. I bust his balls. I'm like, oh, no shit. Really? We're flying out a lot. Really? Okay. Well, how about you let them know, Phil? So we if we start flying out, like if we fly out like 3 times in one inning, 3 outs, just 3 flyouts, he comes back because he coaches first. I go, you want to let them know that they flew out, by the way? And then he gets all funny. But anyways, just making small adjustments like that. Let's get to the middle above the ball instead of middle below. Let's try to force the defense to make different kinds of mistakes because they're obviously good at catching fly balls. And even yesterday, we're playing an opponent that we can beat, but we start a rally and really pull out ahead of them. But it started because it was man on first and second, bunt, 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 then hit, bunt, hit, and then all of a sudden, it's 13-12 nothing, whatever it was at that point. And so, and on the other side of it, we're losing games because we're playing shoddy defense, walking guys. We started. We were just playing inconsistent baseball. And before we had gone to Myrtle Beach, we weren't hitting well, so a lot of our attention was on hitting. But the more I keep looking at our offensive statistics, I'm like, our on-base percentage is .400 as a team. We have opportunities to score. We are scoring. Okay. Why are we losing? And then you're looking at... I saw this video which inspired me, where this guy talked about these different goals throughout a game, and it was stuff like score 6 or more runs a game, walk like 5 or more times as an offense, those kinds of things. 51% or more quality at bats, I believe, and some other things too. And on the pitching side, stuff like I asked Elliot, our pitching coach, what's a good percentage for pitchers getting first pitch strikes on guys. I believe he said something like 75%, maybe more. I don't know, but just stuff like that. 2 or less errors, 4 or more stolen bases as an offense. And just things to track, but just doing things like that. And then we have charts now for it, and we're losing games, and it's like, okay, well, we made 4 errors, we gave this many extra bases, we did not meet the percentage for strike 1 first pitch, but we're scoring runs. So I'm like, it's not our offense. There are some guys that are struggling mightily offensively, but as a team, it's you can't ignore the fact that a close to 300 batting average offensively, 400 plus on base percentage. That I'm like, we're scoring that 6 runs or more a game for the most part. So it's just basic shit, dude. And this is, again, I know we're not the highest level of college baseball, the highest level of baseball by any means. But, it is college baseball, and we're losing games because of fundamental shit. So I think it's just important for people out there listening, whether it's, you're a travel baseball player, travel baseball parent, high school baseball player, high school baseball parent, coach, and everything else in between. Just take care of the little shit. I've been a firm believer for such a long time that the biggest stage the games are won and lost with things like who budges first, who makes an error and who doesn't. And something that I wanted to bring up was something that you used to show. I don't remember the context of why, but in our behind the mask calls, you used to bring up a lazy secondary lead that caused a run to not score in, I believe, a World Series game, right? Was it a World Series game?
It was a playoff game. It was like an LTS or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like kind of shuffle, and then ball in the gap.
No shade or specifics, but it was like a playoff baseball game, and it was just a lazy secondary, and the guy was out by a step at the plate.
Yeah.
You know?
It was one of those like shuffle, like, oh, that's hit. I was going to get down and then run fast.
Mm-hmm.
And the running fast didn't happen until like the runner
second to third
was approaching second. Yeah.
Yep.
And then by the time they hit second, they were like full go. And then there was a good turn at third, diving, slide the whole thing like it was full effort. But it was like if one of those shuffles had been a little bit more, if it had been a little bit more of an aggressive of like, oh, I'm going to score on this, then he'd be safe easily.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I know. It's like, dude, no shit type of stuff that I'm talking about right now. But I just want to emphasize that, hey, we're playing college baseball, and we're at where we're at because of just fundamental mistakes. And I say that, and we're in a good spot conference wise. We're winning. I believe we're 6-2 in conference. We got 2 more conference games today, but so I say that from a good place right now. But our non-conference games, our schedule is strong for non-conference baseball. Play a lot of good New Jersey teams, but it's just the fundamentals here and there. You can't make mistakes. And when you play good teams and you make mistakes, you give them extra outs, or you give them outs offensively. You don't make them earn, and it hurts. It hurts in a big way.
Yeah, no, that's true of any level. I mean, you saw it in the World Series. Shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It happened in the World Series, and it happens on a 10U field.
It could happen to you.
It's going to happen to you.
It's gonna happen to you, unfortunately.
Oh, man. So things have been going pretty well, though, with Joe's?
Yeah, man. It's such a fun group to be around. The young guys on the team are a lot of fun to be around. A couple of them are getting some time here and there, which is always fun to watch. We got to see the kid John Lynch, senior right now, break the hits record the other day, which was so cool. He's such a good player, and a guy where he came into college as a PO. The kid was a PO since he was 16. Now he's the all-time hits leader. So listen. I've had my share of experiences telling kids, hey, you're probably going to pitch in college, but this, that, the other thing. But just a message to those guys out there, too. We're going to be wrong sometimes. We're going to be wrong sometimes. And I've definitely worn it in a sense that I've coached guys that said, maybe this in college, whatever, and then he's something completely different. So if you know something about yourself, or if you have certain beliefs about yourself, like it's never completely out of the equation. I mean, did he really, from what I heard, because I didn't coach him his first couple of years at St. Joe's, but did he know what the hell he was doing his first year college baseball hitting wise? No, but the kid raked, and then, you don't get 156 plus hits in college baseball on accident. It's not an easy thing to do. So hats off to him. It was really cool to see that. We had one of our starting pitchers break 100 strikeouts a couple weeks ago, which was cool. He's a good pitcher. Jack Kelly, shout out Jack Kelly. Just it's been a lot of good stuff. Our catcher, who is really like the freaking heartbeat of our team, Marco Gulo. He's raking this year. He's hitting like probably, I don't know if he's still over 400, but it feels
Metrics guy, right?
Yeah, Catcher Metrics guy. Shout out Catcher Metrics. He's a great kid. It's fun to watch him. He's just like a baseball junkie, though, and I live for that stuff. But I was busting his balls the other day because I'd looked at my games started versus games played in my senior year of college, and I always remember my senior year of college as like a fever dream for multiple reasons. But one of
What do
those
you mean?
reasons,
You said that earlier. What do you mean when you said
it's
that?
just like I have trouble remembering it. It's like it seems like it was. It seems like it all happened so fast and so slow at the same time. A lot of sweating, just generally speaking, um, some suffering and some glory. But I was like, why do I remember it in such a weird way? And I had checked, and I think I caught like 32 of 33 games or some shit like that, and I was like, Jesus Christ. So I was teasing Marco about that. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, just saying. Just saying, dude.
Well, Cantwell talked about that in his episode.
Oh yeah,
How
yeah,
the
yeah,
year how Justin Echeverria the year before caught every day, every game, doubleheaders. They played 4 games in 2 days as their conference schedule. Nine
yeah.
innings. So 36 innings in 2 days, and like he caught all of them. So Pat was like, "That's what I'm doing."
That's the
You know,
standard, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, listen, it doesn't always have to be like that, but sometimes it has to be like that. And to his credit, that kid's a freaking Marco. The kid's a warrior. I freaking love watching him go to work every day. He gets like angry. He gets angry sometimes. He gets angry at the stuff that he should, though. He gets pissed off when things don't look a certain way, which I absolutely love. Um, so that's a kid after my own heart right there. Just reminds me. He reminds me a lot of like myself, how I felt as a player. And so it's nice to see him doing the things that he's doing this year and having the successes that he's having.
yeah. It's good to hear. I remember him in high school. Um, Not always the most talented player, but was always just doing things well.
Yeah,
And then he did that again and again and again, and eventually just stacked.
yeah,
So it's cool to see him uh, like expressing himself fully out there.
yeah, yeah. Could have had a triple, but he swan dove into the ground and freaking got thrown out at third base. Sorry, Marco.
Like, giving him too much credit there. He had to throw him under the
Had to
bus.
bring him back down. Had to bring him back down to earth. But a
That's how people will
freaking.
remember him.
I showed him a picture of me doing that in college too. I slid into
Oh,
third. I was safe.
the scorpion.
I scorpion slid, and my freaking foot's like going up in the air. It was funny. It was like our first game of the year, my junior year. So that was funny. But yeah, everything's going well. It's lessons have been. I always enjoy doing lessons while I'm coaching because you're getting more ideas.
I was gonna say it's rich.
You're getting more ideas from seeing play every day. Um, you don't lose sight of the fact that these kids that you're training have to perform, which I think if you just live in a cage, that's kind of what can happen because you're just, oh, the swing has to look a certain way. Like, and sometimes I'm just like finding myself saying like, fuck that. You got to put the ball forward right now. It's, like that's what needs to happen. Because it's not always going to look good. It's not always going to look a certain way and be balanced and this and that. It's got to be competitive. And I'm grateful enough where I've seen some of my high school guys, some of my middle school guys like start to have like some early successes. It's been so fun to watch. Where they have collected some of them have collected their first varsity hits, and some of them have had some my younger guys making their first school baseball team, making a middle school team, and things to that extent. So it's been really fun, and then getting in the cage and talking about what this needs to be and small maintenance, and then okay, let's compete, let's practice competing because that's what we're going to be doing. Like small, let's feel this, and then let's compete, let's get on. Okay, you're seeing this week, let's see some lefty breaking balls, let's so I think you keep that in mind because that's how I would prepare if he was on my team. We're seeing this velocity this week, we have to see some velocity off the machine maybe. You know, we're seeing a righty who's 65, 70% curveballs. Like, we got to see some curveballs today. You know, it's not 12-6. We got to make it more of a slurve. All right, it's a slider, you know, so we got to, that's kind of the approach. And it's exciting too. It's made it more fun too. Like, the kids are engaged because there's a little bit more ownership for them. You know, what do you got this week? What's this? And then a couple, dude, I felt great. Now I feel lost. And then we talk about the process again. You know, you can't be. You got to be a little bit more.
It's good when they show up to the lesson or they're a couple days before the session with you, and they're starting to think of like, this is what I want to get out of it.
Yep. But that I don't. It's not some magical secret. You know, it's not something that I invented. It's something that I've learned from the people that do it, and it just makes sense. You know, it just makes sense. I want the guys that I have to have ownership over what they do. You know, it's just giving yourself a purpose. You know,
that's interesting you bring that up. That's been a transition, like mentally, internally, that I'm starting to want to shift to with the group of guys that I have.
I'm sure.
Because
you guys are in game mode now. So
yeah. Well, I mean, what you just described, where, hey, we're facing this type of pitcher, we're going to have our training represent that. I mean, that's okay. We do that all the time. So that's not. We've been doing that in spring training. We're kind of practicing all of that every day, just in general. Like, we'll have one cage where it's a lefty slider, one cage where it's a fastball with, call it hop or like some carry or ride, whatever. Another cage where it's working on swing decisions or maybe like a mixed pitch or like, so, you know, we'll kind of hit all those boxes either within a day or within like 2 or 3 days in spring training, just kind of do everything. But then once the season starts and you're an affiliate, you have 1 or 2 cages and you have 13 guys to one coach, and you don't have a ton of practice in compared to what you do in spring training. So you don't have time like, oh, we're going to work on this pitch and then do this. Like, no, you're doing none of that, or maybe one thing, or you got to get creative and work on one of those things in BP, work on one of those things with 2 guys in early work or a small group, or but the point is, in spring training, we have all the hitting coaches there, plus coordinators, plus a couple advisors and some people around. So there's a lot of we have a really good staff as a group this year, but there's a lot of people around and there's a lot of players, and you have an idea of like which players you'll have or not. Like, if someone is 26 years old and has played in AA last year, like, he's not coming to low A. So should I be around them and help? Sure, but I'm not coaching them. You know, if they know me, they ask something, sure, we'll talk. But I'm certainly not giving a hitting lesson mechanical adjustment to someone that I'm not going to have and haven't spent time with. So the point I'm getting at is there's a lot of people around and there's a lot of voices, although all of them I think are good. There's just a lot, so you have to be aware of not like giving a player something because you don't know what he just heard from someone else. And so, like, as a staff, we're all on the same page with what we think players should get better at. That's a strength of the Astros, and that I'm not thinking a player needs to hit the ball more often, and then he goes up to high A, and that hitting coach is saying, no, you have to walk more, and then he goes up to double A, and that guy's saying, no, you have to hit the ball harder. Like, we're on the same page with that stuff. Which surprisingly, a lot of organizations are not.
I don't think that's surprising, bro. Think about sorry to cut you off, but think about any coaching environment, and I deal with this all the time. Not to say that it's that similar, but when you're an instructor and then you're having your kids coming to you saying, my travel coach is saying this, my high school coach is saying this, my dad or mom or whomever is saying this, and then you're saying this, like, it's a similar concept. You know what I mean?
No, it definitely happens. But I guess the key difference is one's a parent, one's a travel coach, and one's a private instructor, and you guys you're not on the same team working for the same group.
We could be. It's the player. The player is the vested interest, the common interest between all of us. And if we really wanted to take steps in improving this guy, which I think we should do more of, and I listen, I'm not going to say I do this all the time, but I know If this kid's playing at this high school, I probably know their coach. If this kid's playing for this travel organization, I probably know their coach. Or I'm one or two guys away from getting in contact with this guy. And if I really wanted to, I could just say, hey, what's going on with so-and-so? This is what I'm seeing. What's happening in the game? Because I don't see a lot of that unless there's video, right? What's going on in the game? Oh, what is it you're telling? Like, these kinds of conversations can be had. They're not probably 98% of the time.
Yeah.
But that could be
They're probably only happening if you know the coach, or there's a mutual something, or the player's really good and people are like, oh, we want to get it right.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's sort of like, hey, how'd the week go? Oh, it was pretty good. You know, I felt good.
Or it's like, fuck that guy. Like, he doesn't fucking know what he's talking about. Like, that's most of it right there.
But
Kyle, so really quickly, sorry. So while we were setting everything up before, I knew this was going to fucking happen because I texted them about this last night. But the game was moved to 2 o'clock and I have BP at 12.
Oh, okay. So you gotta go.
I'm going to have to leave in like 10 minutes if you want to nail out this story. And then, but the good thing is I will be done earlier now. So we can,
we'll
resume
later.
Yes, we'll resume later. But I just had to let you know because I just had a hunch. And like I looked at the group me and then sure enough, so.
Okay. So yeah, no, what I was getting at with that whole spring training thing and a lot of voices and whatnot is basically, and we do a good job of this as a whole, is like it's not a ton of everyone's coaching everyone all the time. It's a lot of like, okay, like I may or may not have this guy. I know he was working with so and so a lot in his early work and his routine stuff, so I'm not like, I'm just going to be respectful of that for the player because you don't want to overload them with conflicting ideas or confusing things. So it's a lot of like, hey, we're doing this drill, and then I'm feeding the machine for them, I'm throwing to them, and if something comes up, we'll talk, but it's pretty passive in a sense. And then, but like now that we're at the affiliate, we're moving. I'm the one point of contact for them. So if something goes on, like they're asking me, which is cool, there's more responsibility there, which you obviously don't take lightly. But through the spring training environment and early on, it's, hey, what do I need? Hey, what do I need? What do you think? What do I need? And like I wanted to start to transition more into like, what are you thinking here? Or if they ask a question, and this is something that you and I both do a lot in lessons, player asks you a question, and instead of being like, there's your answer, do this drill, and just like assigning it to them, being like, what do you think? And kind of walk through it.
Yeah, I had a really cool experience with that last week. Actually, there's a middle school guy, he's a 7th grader, and he's a talented player. He's a little bit smaller, but he's a talented player, and he's since he got to -3, he's been swinging it like well. Like his father was surprised with how he drives the baseball because, again, like I said, he's a little smaller, but he's been doing well. And he comes in and he's playing, which is good, but and middle school baseball is really tough, but it's he's playing, not tough in the sense that it's challenging, it's tough to watch, but but
oh my God.
It just is, everybody knows it. If you've seen middle school baseball, it's like it's a train wreck. It really is. But and the way they do it now is probably worse than ever. It's that every kid gets like 2 innings and 2 at bats instead of just, hey, you're starting and playing, and if you're a second tier guy, you'll get in if we jump out or if we're getting throttled. So whatever. But this kid's the advantage that this guy has isn't his size. It's the fact that he's a fucking genius. This kid's so smart. So, I'm like, how do you look? And he's giving me the typical 7th grade. Good. It's good. How's your BP? It's good. It's good. But then I just have to ask more specific questions. Are you inter squatting? Yes. How are you doing your inter squat at bats? I'm doing pretty well. What is it that you're struggling with? What do we need to work on? Because it's at this point of the season now, this point in our training where we say to ourselves, What do we have to do? I can't, I don't know what's going on in your day to day. I don't know what feels comfortable. I don't know what feels uncomfortable. You know, like, what are we doing here today? And then, okay, so when I face the eighth graders that throw a little bit harder, I'm struggling with velocity. I was like, okay, so do you want to work on hitting velocity? Because we haven't done that with him a lot, to be quite frank with you, because it's, hey, sixth, seventh grader, you're facing pus, you know, like
You can start loading when the halfway there.
You'll be fine. But now he's a couple older guys throw a little bit harder. Like, all right, let's work on velocity. Let's get used to not matching velocity with effort and leaving.
Yeah, rushing.
So So that's what we started on, and then 2 weeks ago it was first time on the hack, getting blown up a little bit, frustration. Then we talk about what the machine is, what our approach to the machine should be. And we're hitting smash balls, so every once in a while you get a little, and it's like, holy shit. and last week...
The turbo sinker, that's every fourth ball.
Yes. And but I think the smash balls are good because it takes a little bit of the fear of getting blown up out of the equation. Mm-hmm. So I do like using them. But no free ads for Driveline. You guys are making enough money. But if you want to sponsor us, that's fine. But I think, like last week now, we're talking about when you see something like that, what does that mean? What are you supposed to do with it? Because last week he swung over one of those power sinkers, and he's pissed. And I'm like, dude, you're in fucking seventh grade. What, do you think that I expect you to be like and turn that shit around? Like, most people are swinging over that just like you did. You know, like most people, like, forget about seventh graders. Most people that I train are just going to go right over that. What should you do with that pitch? He goes, and again, he's smart, so credit to him. He goes, probably take it or foul it off. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we should be doing, right? We should be taking it or fouling it off. And so now it's not, hey, every time I just smoke a baseball, it's positive feedback. I fouled off a tough pitch. Good. I started a little bit late. My barrel was still through. I was late, but hard contact. And it's changing what is successful off of this machine. Because again, to bring it back to what we were talking about with St. Joe's and having that perfect BP and that perfect pitcher so that my swing can line up and the sun and everything, and boom, now I can hit a double, like fucking Jesus. But now it's, when I'm late, if I have good direction, I could still do something productive. If I'm early and I have good direction, I could still do something productive. You know, if I see some nasty shit and I foul it off, good. You know, and it bled into a conversation I had with another guy. Had a really good week and then struggled.
Dwayne, we're going to leave this on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, no.
You got to get going.
I'm trying to get confirmation that BP is at 12 o'clock and nobody's fucking answering me, of course. So, and then it bled into a conversation with another hitter where it's, I did really well last week, and then this week I struggled. Okay, but the questions are the most important part. You need to be asking good questions to these guys. And it's, well, why? Because we didn't even take a swing yet, and I'm thinking to myself, like, the kid's swing is the best it's ever looked right now. And he's meeting goals of being in the starting lineup and being an everyday player and everything. So had a good first week against a pretty good team. Okay, so I'm thinking his head is probably in his ass right now and no approach, whatever. And sure enough, I'm just taking these pitches that are, I don't know, taking these pitches. Okay, all right. When is this happening? 2 strikes. I'm just striking out, looking at whatever, and I'm like, okay. So we start to hit, and then he again. This is why I love having this approach with guys. Is now he's like, all right, I look good through everything. T work, flips, angled flips, BP, everything looked really good. All right, can we do some at bats now? Can you like throw some other pitches, whatever? I'm like, sure. And then it fucking happens, like the first at bat. foul ball, take for strike three. And I saw like how just disengaged, whatever. And I'm like, dude, have you thought maybe, and this is nothing to do with your mechanics, but I felt so comfortable throwing the ball to you right there, just in general, because you're fucking 2 steps off the plate because that's where you normally stand, which is fine. But why have you not thought maybe I'm going to crowd the plate because every high school pitcher just wants to throw the ball away in general, right? And if he paints inside corner, good for you. But if he misses a couple inches out here, now you're on base, right? Now you're hit by a pitch and now you're on base. I'm not going to tell you that you need to get hit by a pitch because, you know, health and safety and all that shit. I'm just going to say maybe you get on base, right? And now I'm thinking to myself as a pitcher, if I throw the ball away now and I miss a little bit towards the middle part of away, it's basically right down the middle to this guy now. And dude, like this, like that, all of a sudden it's 2 strikes. That outside pitch feels close. And if I'm throwing the ball 2 inches outside, he's putting it forward well, right? Spin is all of a sudden he's recognizing it better. And even I said to him too, I was like, I don't want to throw inside right now. I don't. And even if I did though, for whatever reason, it was just like, and just turn it around.
2 strikes or just in general?
Well, first we started off just regular at bats, right? So it was if you got
no,
to
I meant
2,
like him moving closer.
Yes.
Just 2 strikes.
If you got to 2 strikes, that's what we're gonna do. And I saw him by himself too, kind of limit some movements, where he'd be like a little bit more longer here, whatever, and then it was just kind of shorter, a little bit wider, and less of a move. He did that on his own. I like guys to be comfortable in that regard. I'll make suggestions if they want that, but he's making those things himself, and it's not a detriment. But then he goes, all right, like, can we just do 2 strike? Like, I was like, all right, let's do 3 innings of 2 strike at bats. You're starting out 0-2. All right. And the whole approach was just night and day. And then all of a sudden it's wow, freaking everything. Bang, bang, bang. Spit on something, freaking take, spit on a good curveball, whatever. Like, and it just looks way better, and the comfort is there. That like relaxed feeling is there. That confidence is back, which is good. And I was like, you took that and you made that yourself. All right, we're 1 p.m. BP. Perfect. Things keep changing, so we got more time.
The game's at 2?
No, it's not. It's not.
Oh.
Because the schedule online says 2:00, but it's 3:00. Like
all right. So keep going.
Yeah, we can keep going. But yeah, so it was such a nice experience, and it was good to see the confidence, and yeah, I was happy with it, and I know that he felt a little bit better, which is always nice. But I said to him in the end, I'm like, you got to play the game, bro. And this is a conversation where we've been having with the St. Joe's guys. You can't just be a ball thrower and a fucking bat swinger. You're a hitter, you're a pitcher. Play the game within the game. You know, when you're playing shortstop, like, fucking show daylight and try to get a pick off. You know, with your catching, don't wait for me to say in your ear, hey, the guy's got an extended secondary, pick him off at first. Like, you know, fucking throw down there. Play the game. And that's
it's like seeking opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, what can I get from this? Can I steal a base? Can I take an out? Can I out hustle someone?
Exactly, dude. And I feel like if anything is lost in today's game, it's that. And it's not always the fault of the player. Right, it's a team effort in success and in failure. It's always a team effort, right? So, if I look at the in my opinion, one of the bigger problems is that the levels of thought, right, which we talked about with Cap. The levels of thought is not there more consistently than it is, but that comes from things like we have wristbands for college players where okay, now I need to shade to my right because my wristband says so.
Well, you just said it. You have the ability to get in someone's ear and tell them what to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. You know, whereas the other in another instance, we could see a catcher shade the defense over. In another instance, we could see a shortstop say to himself, okay, this guy's late. I'm going to go here. You know, this guy's early. This guy's a pull hitter. The hitter instead the fielder isn't paying attention to the swing. They're waiting for coach to say move here, or the wristband to say this is the pitch that's coming. I need to be in this position. Or you have your scouting report sheet in your pocket or in the dugout or whatever. You know, which is all good stuff. You know, I've had conversations with other coaches about this. It's all good stuff. The information is all quality information, but it's almost taking away from the creativity of the player to sort of find those things out themselves. They're not thinking of these things. There are still guys that do it. Like we talked about Marco earlier. Marco's a guy who's always looking to get an edge. He's always looking to collect extra outs. He's always, if we're going over pickoff plays in practice, he's like, yo, this is the idea I have. I want to try this. And we do. And it looks pretty good. You know, so he's so it's not that it doesn't exist. It's just less common when you look at a group of players. It's less common to have guys like that. So it's good and it's bad, but I think if we can just have more conversations with players, with coaches, and with parents that these parts of the game are important, then we can see it a little bit more, you know?
I think the information, the scouting reports and all that is really good when you don't know anything. Like, I don't know who this hitter is, some random school, we got a scouting report. Okay, it says he hits the ball over here. Let's go over there. Good. So it gives you like a base point, and you should probably stay there more than not at first, just based on what was provided. But then at some point, like once you've established that baseline, like, oh, he's early, he's late, or based on if you have some intuition based on what pitch is called or something, then like you have some freedom to move from there. And also, like, this happens a lot with opposing pitcher information, where we'll have guys have thrown at the pro level. Basically every time someone does anything, there's at a minimum a TrackMan sitting there recording it, and even if it's some guy in a bullpen throwing off of one, that information becomes public. So you have an idea that, like, okay, his fastball cuts a little bit, his sliders, or we think, hey, his fastball cuts a little bit and his slider is big, it's 15 inches, whatever. And you're like, okay. And then you watch, and as he's throwing, you're like, nope, the ball's running a little bit and the slider's really more of a cutter, and it's 88, not 82.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, we're not going to sit here and be like, well, the iPad says he throws cutters. I mean, we use it. Trust me, I got way too many iPads.
Yeah.
But like you use it, but then once you watch him and after he's thrown a couple hitters, you're like, okay, he's doing this now. And then the report you had goes out the window.
Yeah.
Because like maybe it's cold out, he's flying open, or maybe he changed something over the off season, which happens a lot. So,
yeah, we've had some scouting reports too, where I remember one team in particular, the pitching coach and myself are discussing, how we're going to attack these guys, and these guys don't hit breaking balls well, and I feel like every fucking hit they had was on a breaking ball, and they couldn't catch up to the fastball. And we were talking about the scouting report to our second baseman, because our second baseman, I remember, was talking about it and was, he knew these guys or whatever, and said the same thing that our scouting report said. And then we were joking with him after the game, like, I guess they fucking hit breaking balls well, and this is just completely wrong, So,
or it was right on that day.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I mean, or maybe whatever breaking ball they faced the time before was better.
Yeah. Tunneled better, or it was being played off of some other pitch, or maybe the team was just had a terrible approach that day and they've adjusted. So it's yeah, especially when information's based off of like 4 at bats of one time that some coach saw and had an impression and then told you.
Yeah,
which is how it often is at the college level.
No, 100%. I think, but I just think that if we're staying on top of If we're paying attention to what's happening in the game, the answers will be there. And it's been something as we've faced a good hitter last year, and I remember picking up on something in the beginning of his first at bat, and I'm like, this is where we need to attack him because this is where he's standing. Like, you can see by the way he's standing and the way his swing is what he's trying to do. And to the kid's credit, we're beating him in a certain spot, and then all of a sudden the stance adjustment, let's say he was closed, now he's open, right? Or he was open, now he's closed. And I'm like, this kid's paying attention to what's going on. Let's adjust.
You're playing chess with him, not checkers.
Yeah, dude. Holy shit. It was so cool to watch. And then the one mistake we made, he hit a fucking home run on. Like, the kid was just good. The kid was good. He was a good hitter. We were able to hold him down a little bit because we were able to hold him to just that home run, actually, in a 2-game set. But it was so fun to see that. Like, I was like, hats off to, he's paying attention to what's going on. Like, good for you. But I'm gonna adjust too. We're gonna adjust as well, So it was fun. It's always fun to do that. When you recognize gamesmanship in your opponent, dude, that to me is like just as exciting, than anything else, So I love that shit.
It's nice to be having these conversations in more of an in-season mode, because we've been doing this a lot in all off-season stuff where it's focused on training, and it's easy to have like big picture conceptual discussions about the season when you're not going through it day after day. You're not as tied to the emotional highs and lows in the off season.
Yeah, but you also, it's kind of, I just like the season because that's just where lines get blurred. You talk about these things need to be like this. You got to make sure this and that. And it's like, all right, well, you just fucking got home at 2:00 in the morning. How's your sleep? We're talking about how sleep's quality, bro. How was your fucking sleep? Not so good. You're here podcasting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
mm-hmm.
you had class all day, then you went to practice. Now you got to go study, or maybe you got a job or something. Or did you went to Chipotle, didn't you? You know what I'm saying? Like, those kinds of, like, the lines get blurred a little bit, which is the stuff that I love.
It's real. It's
yes.
practical. It's not. The adjustments are more in the moment, minute. You can't be like, okay, I haven't played in 3 weeks. Here are my goals. Let me reflect on the year, and here are my goals for the next year, and I'm going to be all positive. And it's important, and we're all going to get to that point. But it's a cycle. But you can't wake up and I'm going to spend an hour and a half researching and journaling and getting my process right. It's like, I'm going to wake up and hopefully have time to talk to you and whoever for a little bit, and then I'm going to get some video done, hopefully have enough time to exercise and make some breakfast, and I haven't even gotten food shopping yet. And you're like, okay, see you at the stadium or be at the field for 12 hours.
Yeah. Just ask my fucking laundry basket, dude. It's brutal. I'm like, God damn it.
I'm still out of suitcases. I haven't unpacked from spring training, and I've gone on I've relocated twice.
I don't know. I love that shit though. I really do. Honestly, it's the reason why we're not okay with, but we like doing these kinds of things is because, you're able to make things happen even when it's not, the conditions aren't perfect, and that's our game. I was watching something about the big league games going on right now. Like, they had the coldest game ever recorded at Fenway Park recently, and it's like the guy Crochet, I think he went 8 innings the start before and looked fucking electric, and then he couldn't feel his fingertips back at Fenway. Like, that's real shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could fucking prepare all you want, but you can't emulate those kinds of that kind of an environment.
Right.
Because if it was a practice day, he would have been throwing a fucking bully inside. He wouldn't have been outside fucking throwing a ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are some games. We had several games this year where we just played a game recently where it was fucking freezing cold. I'm like, bro, it's the first week or second week of April. What's going on? Even yesterday was cold. Today's much nicer, but you can plan, and you need to make sure you took a shit and then you drank enough water and everything, I'd be like, all right, motherfucker, it's go time right now. Like, all that stuff sounds good, right? And being prepared is important. Taking care of your body is important. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not about throwing all that shit out the window. You do need to make time. It's harder to make time, is the truth, but you do need to make time to have check-ins with yourself and make sure you are doing things like staying fueled and hydrating yourself. But then that's where you need to find ways to cut corners in a good way. You know, like I talked to you about the different hydration supplements that I like. You know, like I've been big on Element. Element sponsor us. I love Element, and that is such a good little cheat code for me for hydration and finding, oh, okay, well, maybe you meal prep on this day and you have food readily available for you during the week, you know, but then maybe there's some times where you're getting home super late and you can't meal prep. So then what are you going to do if that happens? So that's just the shit that I love, you know?
Yeah, that's why it's so important to have a good foundation established before you get into this time period.
Or just the ability to make an adjustment, to like be creative. If you only know one way, when that way is exposed as either ineffective or frankly like irrelevant based on what's going on, what the fuck are you going to do? You know? Like if you are allowing yourself multiple avenues, you know, okay, well, if I can't do this, I can do that. If this is not available to me, this I could fall back on this. You know, so that's just the shit that's what I live for right there, Kyle. I live for that shit.
Yeah, it's a game of adjustments.
Yeah, and it's
a life
fun.
of adjustments.
But that's what really makes a season so amazing. You know, I say like a lot of things need to go your way, and sometimes you need to get lucky, right? In some regards, but you make your own luck. If you're paying attention to what's going on, if you're willing to make adjustments, if you're sometimes willing to do things that other people are not willing to do, you know, you put yourself in a position where you can't even be lucky. So that's just what I like about it. And it's fun talking to people about this. It's fun hearing about, man, like if you're working with players that have that creativity and that like sort of tenacity where they're willing to go to certain depths to win, whatever that means, whether it's win a game or get past a nagging injury. Like how many times you felt 100% fucking healthy when you played college ball? Probably, I could tell you never.
Yeah, very little.
And that one day where you feel really good, you're just going to fucking throw the ball into right center field for whatever reason, you know? But when my arm's hanging, it's just right on the bag. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, when you feel good, your focus shifts. It can.
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get more out of today. I'm going to hit more balls, or I'm going to throw this harder, even better. And then you lose your like mental process going through that movement or that type of play is elsewhere.
Yeah.
And
as far as like the process stuff, because I do know people that do what we do, work in baseball, athletics. There's always a process. There's like a monotony to things that we do. You know, kind of shifting gears a little bit, but not so much. Like, what is it about doing this that makes you okay with it? Because it's the same thing for me, anyways. It's the same thing. I wake up, you know, I eat, I work out, go to the field, practice, go do lessons, or if we have a game, you know, go to the field, BP, pregame, and go time, and then kind of post game stuff, and come home, take care of some other things. But like why? Why do you
What
like it?
do you mean when you say, like, I think I may know what you mean when you say, like, makes it okay with this. Like, basically, like, why is it worth doing?
Yeah.
Going through this?
Yeah.
That is
because it could be it could be anything. It could be, why do you like going to the office? Or, you know, like, why do you like going to the office 5 days a week? And, you know, are you okay with your days off or anything like that? But
There,
It's
from
not.
a It's such a good question because I think about that a lot. My current thought on it is I kind of split it into two parts or two subsections of the same question. The question of why I why you go through the day to day. Like, why is it that you want to go spend 12 hours doing this? Why is it that you want to wake up and immediately have to work on that? And all those, why you on the bus? Like, those questions, the answer to that's easier is because a lot of it's really fun. It's rewarding. You get to spend time with players. They, like, listen, guys are going to have more bats coming up and they might have struggled than the ones from the past couple games. And I feel responsible for helping them try to, get through it or just make improvements. You focus on what guys can become. You tend to, yeah, I think any good coach, something they have in common is they'll look at what's within the player and they're trying to help them extract that, or they're trying to remove blockades or unlock things that allow those positive qualities to express. So you're working towards that from a like personal standpoint. You're thinking about like, okay, well, playing in a stadium at night and there's fans showing up and this is an important thing, and we're not that far from the big leagues compared to the population of baseball. I want to get better at this. You're challenged constantly if you care about what you're doing and you want to just have good work and make a positive impact. um, you see everything as an opportunity for what could be better. Just how good something could get. So from that standpoint, it's really easy. And having the monotony, for the most part, like we're gonna hit BP most days. We're gonna do this before the game. We're gonna get there and work out beforehand, like things like that. It The day flows. It's easy. Like, okay, I do this. Once you get into a routine, like, okay, I do this, then I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this. It's just one thing into the next, and each thing's a little bit different. And along the way, you're interacting with different people, and the people I work with, I really, really like. So it's really easy to do all this from that perspective. The other perspective is, why am I living 5 or 6 months on, a 10-hour drive away from my friends and family and people I really care about? Why am I living somewhere else where I only talk to you via phone call, Snapchat, or podcast? Um, I don't do a great job of reaching out to some of my brothers frequently, or if I do, and it just, we play phone tag and then it just kind of drops, and I don't talk to them much for part of the year. When I go back home and I'm um, stay at my parents' house for time periods and I'm around some of them, if they're around also, then our relationship's great, but it doesn't sustain. Been talking with a girl pretty seriously for the last couple months, whatever it's been, and like, she's not here. And you start to project into like, okay, what's that going to look like from a work life balance? What's that? How
You
does
have no
this?
life.
Yeah, well, it's yes, but this year I do.
No, you don't.
Um, just shoot you down.
No, no, you
Nope.
don't. You got no life, brother.
No, this year, in all seriousness, this year it's been different. I mean, we
Yeah.
haven't done this podcast during the season much, but most Mondays, as many Mondays as we can moving forward, we're going to record. So I get that with you, and you
Yeah,
and I
don't
do a good
worry, you
job of.
fucking junkies out there that want this shit. We know we're back.
Yeah, but um, yeah, like you and I, we do a good job of sending Snapchat videos as our medium, and we'll give like updates or whatnot, or we'll, now that we're on a similar schedule, we might be up late after a game or something. I could chat, but
Just
so
doing
that's good.
this.
Um, Having someone that I've been talking with, that keep in touch with her here and there, which I haven't had since I've been in pro ball. So it's like something that's separate. Whereas, like, I was FaceTiming her for 2 hours, whatever it was, on a 6 hour bus ride last night. Whereas if I wasn't, I would have just been doing work, and then until I felt kind of burnt, and then I'd be stressed and just wanting a break, and I'd be on my phone scrolling through Instagram or something, or feeling like I'm not doing enough, but also doing too much. And so, relative to how much of a life you can have in season, it's been good in that sense. But what keeps you doing it? I mean, yeah, I ask myself that a lot, because the day to day, I love it, and but the like you step back, and actually, I've had this question. We've talked about this actually, where it's like, uh, it's a cliche question, but it's like, if you knew you were dying in a year or two, what would you do? Like, well, honestly, if I was dying a year from now, I'd pack up my apartment and drive home. I I just wouldn't be away from family. But I also have purpose in meeting. I'm really good at this. It's fun as hell. I'm good at it. It's fulfilling. Um, so I don't have an answer, but this is the thing that both of us have been kind of at turmoil with for a while.
Yeah, I think that that's a completely normal thing to wrestle with. I think that's something anybody can relate to, whether you're coaching baseball at any level or at working any other job. You know, I think people think about this shit all the time. It could be a sign of your age. I think it happens post college for college athletes. It's post college. What the fuck am I going to do now? And I think it happens when you've been doing that job for a certain period of time, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing now? And then it's, you've been working that job for 10 years or so, and then it's, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that goes away. And I think the just the fact that you're questioning that is good. I think that's a good thing. I think because you're taking other things into consideration. I think but for me, I don't know, if the people around you understand what it is that you're going through, if you're able to communicate to the people around you that this is why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, they understand that. They know that you have goals in mind, and they know that you have them in mind as well. I think that kind of makes it a little bit easier to go about your business, because it's a sacrifice. It is. It's a sacrifice. But that's why I'm so big on, I get off the field and I take care of all the work that I need to take care of. I fucking turn it off. I want to come home and talk about golf and shit to my roommate, and talk about Star Wars and fucking Lord of the Rings and all different kinds of things. I want to turn it off, and I want to talk about, the TV show we've been watching or those kinds of things. I want to go home to my parents' house where they're watching a movie and sit down for a couple hours and watch a movie with them and talk about, go and see my brothers and talk about what the hell they've been up to and what their careers are like and what their other plans are, just sharing. And I think if you can have some sort of a medium to have those kinds of conversations with the people that you care about, and they understand that, hey, Kyle might be MIA for a little while, for an unknown stretch of time, and then he'll pop in. But then when you're there, you're present and you're caring and you're receptive, then that's important. But I think it's when we go about our business and kind of put ourselves in a corner and just burn ourselves out over work, that's when we can lose touch, which I think happens to everybody at one point or another. So I do think that it's important, and again, this can be for any career or anything you have going on in your life, even for athletes, man. And like I say to players all the time, the things that we talk about sometimes, acquiring certain skills, I feel like we have our baseball conversations, we talk about our life kind of conversations, just professionalism and stuff like that. And this is not, you don't need to learn these lessons as late as I've learned them. You can learn them earlier, but I do believe you could learn them later than I do. I just there's no reason why you can't start to learn these lessons now, if that makes sense. You know, if you're a college athlete, if you're a high school athlete, you can start to think about things in these ways. I wish I had had the perspective that I have now while I was a college athlete and just talked about what it was that I was trying to do. Because I think I would have had not a better, but a more quality relationship with certain people, certain family members while I was a college athlete. Because it was, if I was in season, or if I was in season, I just wasn't talking to a lot of people. I was grinding. I was hanging out with my buddies, and especially college, it was grinding, hanging out with my buddies, going to class, and everybody else was kind of shut off, you know? And I think I do a much better job now of oh shit, I got hours right now before I do my next whatever, and it's not 8 to 12, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. I can give somebody a call and check in with them. You know, I can give somebody a call and maybe not check in with them, but just talk about some random shit and make a connection with them. You know, and these are things that I think we need to do. I think it's so important to have connections with other human beings and invest in your relationships with the people that are in your lives, because, you know, when you do have to put your nose to the grindstone, they don't know, they do know that you're not just disappearing on them, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's something I've learned from you most notably. It's just like constantly sharing things or being in touch or being consistent and not just playing catch up or,
Yeah.
you know, small talk. Like, you know, because I have that relationship with a few of my friends from college that when I see them, we have a great time, and I see them 1 to 3 times a year, you know, depending. And when we hang out, it's fun. And when we talk on the phone, I haven't talked to them in a month or two. And it's like, hey, what's going on? Oh, this changed with work. Oh, you know, my wife's doing this now. We did this with the house, and you know, like otherwise this, and then I share what's going on with me. It's like, oh, you know, you're going this year, or how's spring training, or whatever. And then we kind of get past that, and then we start talking about what, you know, update each other on what our other friends are doing. And then, you know, it's a good conversation. It's nice to talk to them for an hour, hour and a half, whatever it is. And then, but like, because that's what we talked about, there's no need to call them next week because there's no new updates. It
Yeah.
just becomes like an update call. So
Yeah.
if there's nothing's changed, then there's no need for the call, where it's something you do a really good job of, and two of us do. And I try to bring in with my other relationships is like, this is what happened to me today.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Just stupid
'Cause-
shit, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could be stupid shit. I could be complaining about the fact that, like, the light around the corner from where I live, for whatever reason, it only fucking is green one way for
I
the
know.
last, like, week or so. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if I experience that and then I share it with somebody, not in a way to complain, but just to include them in my everyday process and what the fuck is going on with me. Now they're like, oh shit, this is what was happening with me. You know what I mean? Like, and it just becomes this, it builds that camaraderie where, dude, my favorite fucking thing, right? One of my favorite things is seeing groups of people older than myself that still have that, like, that younger person looking relationship with their friends, right? And I'll give you an example. These guys listen to the podcast, so you know who you are when I'm going to describe what you guys do. These guys still, like, go to the bar together and they hang out, and their sons train at the facility that I work at, and they're like boys. They'll, like, sit and they'll hang out and they'll chat. I fucking love seeing that shit. I love that. You know what I mean? Because I see that, I'm like, wow, you know what, man? With my boys right now, my best friends, we could still be doing that in 20 years. in 15 years, in 10 years. You know, that's what just gives me that hope, to use a simple term. It gives me that hope. I love seeing that shit. When I see older people, like older men, older women, older people just still having that youthful type connection with their friends, that where they're talking about whatever the fuck they're talking about, their experiences, their wives, their kids, their jobs. Like, I'm like, damn, like that's what keeps us going. Those kinds of conversations.
I was in a restaurant. We were on the road last week. We took a bus to a gym that was letting us train there as a team. And then afterwards, me and one of my coworkers, who we'll have on the podcast at some point, we went and took an Uber instead of going back to the hotel because there's no food there really. We took an Uber, got lunch, and then went to the stadium. But we were at lunch, and there was someone behind me, and they were 2 or 3 like older women in their 60s plus, and they were talking about like, yeah, at Southwest, you know, they load a certain way, and it was different from what they did before, and United doesn't do that. And at first I was kind of like, this is frustrating to listen to, and then I was like, I would have the same conversation with Dwayne. It would be at a faster cadence, and we'd use different like lingo. But I was like, they're just doing what we do. I was like, oh, that's gonna be us.
I love that shit, man. I really do. I really do love that shit. But that's the way we're supposed to exist. If you're listening to this right now, when you get off, call your boy, call your best friend, and talk some shit with them, please. Like, I just, that's what you live for, man. Every time I get back together with my old teammates, I'm the kind of person where it's a pickup where we left off. Like, yeah, we'll catch up and talk about this or whatever, but I go in depth. You know, it does. You know me, man. You know me a while. It doesn't take much to really get me going, to get me to certain depths. But I want to know how you feel about what it is that you're doing. I don't want to know. I do want to know what you're doing, but like, that's not what interests me. I want to know why it is that you're doing what you're doing. I want to know what you're doing in between what you're doing that keeps you going, you know? Like, what's going on in your routine that makes you enjoy life? You know, what's going on in between the action, so to speak? That's the stuff that, you know, what kind of show are you watching on a day off that is entertaining to you? What are you looking forward to? What are your goals? Like, those kinds of things. And also just stupid shit too. Like, I love that. I really do. But that's what keeps you coming back, and what makes us so good at maintaining that type of a relationship and friendship is the fact that on a day, at any point during the day, Kyle could receive a voice message or a Snapchat from me that is just some rant about random bullshit, whether it's April and it's still freezing, or Chipotle has a new seasonal meat, or like, you know, and Kyle might not even give a shit about that, but it's just like, it's entertainment and it's keeping him involved. And then when we actually speak the next time, like, he might even throw in a comment about that, which then validates to me the fact that he's listening, that he is still invested in my life, and that grows our connection, you know? So sharing the little details of your life is important for the people that are, you know, in your life on a daily basis. Like, every time, my mom knows everything about me, but when I talk to my mom, it's same thing. Just talk to her about dumb shit. She knows baseball stuff. She knows what my life's like on the baseball field and how I feel about everything, but she wants to know about, you know, what did I buy when I went food shopping? What have I made for dinner? Am I watching anything, you know? And that keeps her in the loop. It keeps her connected.
It also helps you, it connects to her, but it helps you disconnect.
Yeah.
Because you're not like, oh, you know, we gave up 2 hours in the third. And
no, she doesn't give a shit about that, you know? Like, does she care about the fact that those errors may have led to a loss? Absolutely. She wants to see me winning. My mom wants to see us winning. St. Joe's Golden Eagles. My mom loves us, but she wants the yeah, she wants the other things. Am I eating enough? Am I, hydrating? All that stuff. Like that's more of the
Yep.
stuff. So,
Yeah, the real like the day to day. So yeah, it's a challenge, but so important to keep that going.
yeah. But
When
if your
there's
head is
distance
just
or
down, if your head is just down, it's just not going to happen. I can't How many times have we talked about, like, dude, I just walked outside and I sat on a bench and it was just a beautiful day, and like, we've talked about shit like that, or oh dude, this Florida weather, it's really different, like it's so fucking nice out, whatever, like that stuff. You're putting my brain where you are. Sorry. You're
I'm
putting my
coughing for you.
brain, like, I sound like Darth Vader right there. I was kind of sick. But you're bringing me to where you are. You're helping me experience what you're experiencing in that moment, you know?
Yeah. No, it's the shared experience, not the
Sending me
updates.
videos of the fireworks when you guys are playing, and the Snapchat last night or whenever it's
Yeah.
42 degrees and you guys are all bundled up in the dugout. I'm like, bro, that's
They're
a
playing
regular
fireworks.
fucking day for me. Like,
Yeah. Oh man. I know it was like, oh man, it's cold. That it wasn't warm.
no.
I spent some time in Florida. Spring training was in Florida, and we're in North Carolina. It's going to be 86 today. But last week it was in the 40s at night, and it was not warm.
And it's different, like, if the 40s at night, no sun, that's cold.
Yeah,
That's cold.
yeah,
Like 40,
it was
I think
cold
we were in like 45 yesterday, but it was at times sunny. It was at times not really sunny, but at times sunny.
at times.
And when it was, I would just come out of the dugout. Coach Elliott and I call it the cave because it's just fucking cold in there and dark. And I would just
It's so
walk out
true.
onto the field and just get some sun on me because I need it. It's,
Yesterday was we played in Maryland, and yesterday was like a classic April. Maryland's not in the Northeast, but like that region of the country where it was like 53 degrees out, maybe 55. It was sometimes breezy. When the sun was out, it was a little strong, but it was mostly cloudy. And if you were out on the field in the sun and you were moving a little bit, it was like this is good weather. The second you went into the shade and it was breezy, it was like this is a bad day. And I was just like, I'd be loving this. This is like late April conference baseball in the MAC, and I was like, this is where I spent my career in this weather. And then I
yep.
sat in the dugout and I was like, this is not nice.
No. I got my parka right here hanging up on my door, and Elliot and I talk about it every day, dude. I will have that parka until the conference tournament. I will be bringing it with me every day. Every day. I
That's
actually,
tough.
the life hack that I have is to wear my sweatpants underneath my baseball pants during the game. And Coach Elliott, you fucked up yesterday. If you're listening right now, brother, you fucked up yesterday against Brooklyn because you did not keep the sweatpants on underneath the baseball pants. I told him. I was like, you got the sweats on underneath there? He's like, nah, not today. I was just like, you're fucking up, brother. Like, that's a hack I brought to the boys. It's actually funny too because one of my former teammates from Dowling who played at St. Joe's was at the game yesterday. Shout out Anthony Rucci. He was at the game yesterday, and he talked about that unsolicited. Was like, you know what I remember doing too when I was a freshman when I wasn't playing, like I would just wear sweatpants underneath my baseball pants. Like, it was just, I was like, yes, dude, yes, yes, that's
Yeah.
the way.
Hmm. No, it's so true. We had, I mean, half our teams not from the U.S., so they're not. Some of them have played in cold before, some of them haven't. Um, and then even some of the American guys, if they're from further south, like they're not playing baseball in 40 degrees, or if they do, it's occasionally,
Yeah.
but it's not the norm. So guys are free. It was cold, like guys are freezing and whatnot. And one of them, like the first night, was wearing like the long sleeve shirt, but it's long sleeve. It's like an undershirt, like a dry
Yeah.
fit undershirt, but it's long sleeve. you could wear it in the sun.
Yep.
It's more like sun
Like
protection than it is.
The Heat gear,
Yeah.
Under Armour type.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he was wearing that. So basically, like nothing. And then just the uniform. And it was like just so cold. And then by like the third day of that, he was going. He had like leggings on. Then he called them yoga pants, but like basically like a stretchy jogger,
Yeah.
like a Lulu stretchy jogger, and then baseball pants, and then had like two shirts underneath. And uh, it was still cold, but he was a little bit better. And I was like, these are the adjustments.
Yeah.
And
It's
then and
different.
then it's 86 here, just because we drove south. It was also
Nice.
a cold week, but oh man.
Yeah, but you
So
come
you guys
from
are,
playing at Buffalo, brother.
I know. It Catching in 35 degrees is way easier, way
Yes.
more comfortable, excuse me, from a temperature standpoint than coaching in 50.
Dude, I'm such a bitch now with the weather.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. I wasn't up in Buffalo, but I was up in the Hudson Valley, and we played like Oswego and Plattsburgh and Cortland and all those places, Oneonta. So like we did get up there, and Fredonia too, which is Buffalo. And I didn't wear sleeves. I was fine. I didn't like having a sleeve unless it was a compression sleeve on my arm because it always hurt. Surprise. I didn't like wearing sleeves. I would wear leggings. I felt if I had a good layer on my lower half, my legs were warm, my feet were relatively warm, then my upper half was fine. But dude, now I'm like Under Armour, thermal shirt, fucking we have like a long sleeve pullover, sweatshirt, jacket. At
Yeah.
least I'll go with the ski mask, and if it'll be around my neck to keep my neck warm, and if I need it, I'm putting it over.
Yeah.
I'm going beanie on top of that. Like it's I'm sorry. This is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
It's just not right.
Our manager is Dominican, and he saw me all bundled up, and the manager and the like third base coach, first base coach, they have to go out in Jersey, so they have to go stand out for half the game in the field, where I'm sitting there just bundled up. I don't leave the dugout, and he's like, "You're from New York, like why you can't be cold?" And I was like, "You're Dominican, you can't sweat."
That's funny.
Well, you guys are. I'm glad you have some good weather today.
Yeah.
Doubleheader.
Yep. Doubleheader today. Playing Mount St. Vincent's today, and then we got a non-conference game tomorrow. We got Farmingdale Friday. So it's a big week.
Nice.
It's a big week.
Well, why don't we
Yeah, we'll cut
wrap
it
this
here.
up? We'll see if we do a part two or not. If you're listening to this and there's another hour and change left, then we kept going,
Yeah.
or it ends.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Peace. When you're kind of like in the mix of the season, um, what exactly an off day or time off means to you? What are some things you look forward to? If I don't know, because the season can get long. It can get a little bit arduous, but an off day can be a couple things. It can be a day where you sort of recoup, rest, re-energize, those kinds of things. For me, an off day is something where I need to get other things done so that, I'm not coming home to an apartment that's a fucking disaster, that my fridge is full, that maybe I did some meal prep, just things of those sort. Clean out my car, get my paperwork in order, those kinds of things. So I was just kind of curious from your perspective when you got a day off. It's pretty early on, obviously, but it's not your first season. I know it's first season at this level and everything with this team, but it's not your first season in professional baseball. What those off days kind of mean to you, and what you kind of try to take care of those days.
Yeah, it sort of depends. It's you kind of three buckets. You need the get ahead for next week. There's a lot of prep that has to get done about opposing pitchers and wrapping up things from the previous series and making sure that you're squared away with what you want to do with, at least over the first couple games, which are really just practice days. Actually, one of our coaches says that, hey, in the minor leagues, you have 140 practices. Everyone focuses on the game, but the practice takes longer than the game does.
Yeah.
So you got some of those to prepare for, and then you got certain guys that are, kind of at the forefront of your mind of struggling or something looks a little bit off and you want to work with them. So you have things to wrap up and then to prepare for from a work standpoint. And then, as you mentioned, you have things that you have to take care of, like food shopping or, for instance, unpacking the suitcases that I've been living out of since spring training. So having a time to, moving into the apartment, cleaning the car, like little things like that, checking my email and making sure I didn't have some urgent thing due last week that I didn't do,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then, yeah, then you also have like what I would love for it to be is Sunday night, wrap it all up and see a Tuesday morning and just completely disconnect. But that's hard to do. It's possible, but it's hard. You have to really be, you can do it, but the Thursday, Friday, Saturday of the week prior, you're going to have to be doing stuff for the following week, which is more power to you to get ahead of that. But that time is spent getting ready for the next week, so you have your off day, and it's not spent maybe doing some extra stuff for the guys in the moment, at least like extra prep work and whatnot. So it's this constant feeling of the list of things you have to do or that you would like to do ideally is greater than the time you have or the time you're willing to put into it and also sleep enough and connect with people like yourself and check in with family and um, train and do some other things or maybe like, oh my God, I need my oil changed. When's that going to happen?
Yeah.
Things like that. So it kind of depends on whichever one is most pressing or whichever one you feel like you need. Still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I think it's hard. An off day, it's not always what you think it's going to be. A lot of times I find myself trying to schedule more things on an off day, which can just create this long day of things that I have to do things. It's not really common that I have a full quote unquote off day, because if we're not on the field doing stuff, I'm probably in the facility training guys, which is fine. It's just different gears though for me. What in regards to what I'm doing right now, it's just completely different gears. Going in and training people versus being on the field with the team. So I think one helps the other and vice versa though, because whereas it can be a little bit grindy for either, getting to do the other one is energizing. So whether I'm coaching and it's getting grindy and this and that, and then I go in and doing a lesson with a kid who is much younger and his experience is more fresh and exciting, it can be energizing. Or if it's the older guy that is in the middle of his season too and he's trying to figure something out, or he's doing well and it's just kind of maintenance, that stuff can be energizing. And talking about training those athletes with the other coaches at the college or with guys like yourself, it can be just create, I don't know, it just can create more energy overall. So
It's good to have contrast.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if you're only in a training setting, that can get dull because it's sort of like it could become Groundhog's Day or what are we doing? And if you're only in compete mode, especially as a coach, if you're only in compete mode, at some point you're going to be like, hey, like in my position, if that's all I did, I would quickly be like, I'm watching baseball. I'm telling guys, hey, he throws 92 with the two seam, so make sure it starts away so it ends up middle. And he doesn't throw the slider in the zone, so let's try to avoid that. And then I'm writing down, hey, you had a good take, 1-1. And then I got to write it after. Like, if that's all I did, that'd be so boring.
Yeah.
But having both and then going in and out of periods where you're either through a day or through a week where you're having different kinds of things, there can be some refreshment within what is monotonous, at least based on how it is written on a schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. But just to bring it back to the whole quote unquote off day experience too, I really enjoy the I guess just the difference, the different things that are going on. It could really mean anything, even if, like I spoke about earlier today, going and watching some movie or talking about my mom talking about her work, or other family members, friends talking about their work. It's just I don't know. I'm sure there's smarter ways to describe what it is that I was talking about earlier and now, but it just feels like if you're connecting with other people and if you're staying invested in what it is that they have going on, it can just energize you in what you're doing too, because it gives you that sense of overall what am I doing, instead of just I need to make sure my scouting reports are good, and I need to make sure that, because I think you and I have talked about this before. I definitely have times where you're thinking about the right thing to say to a player or a team in a certain moment. You're freaking cooking breakfast and thinking, if a player is experiencing something like this is what I would be prepared to say. If a player is, struggling with something in regards to their hitting, that you can always present them with some sort of a solution, but because I don't know.
How active is that? Those thoughts that you have.
I mean,
Is that they just show up and that's kind of who you are, or is that something that you've trained yourself?
I think it comes from just friendships in general, growing up, and thinking about what it is that I said to people, you know? So thinking about, hey, I have this friend that is seeking some sort of advice, or maybe it's not even advice, maybe it's just something that happened, whether it's to use baseball, it's, this happened at the baseball field. My friend and I talked about this, and then you're sitting at dinner and thinking about what it is that you said to them and how and what that meant to them and how it was received. I think that's something I've always kind of thought of. I've always been mindful of what I said, even like maybe not in the moment, but after the fact. So now it's, you kind of see the path that an individual, a player, might be on, and you see whether they're having success or struggling, and then but you see their flaws, so if you say to yourself, this guy's hitting well, but he's not hitting a breaking ball well, but he's not seeing a lot of breaking balls, so he's hitting well right now. You're prepared to have the conversation at some point, whether it's before they start struggling or maybe when they start struggling, about the breaking ball, because you might even see like, hey, the barrel's leaving the zone early, or your chase rate on a low breaking pitch, like I would fucking throw that to you every time because you swing and miss at it a lot. But a lot of teams just don't see that. They'll throw you a low one, you'll swing and miss at it, and then for whatever reason they'll fucking give you a fastball and you're getting away with it. So and sometimes it's like on a team setting too, where you're thinking maybe something happens to you, maybe something happens to me, and it makes me think about something, and then it has me draw a connection between what it is that we're doing on the field and life. Maybe it makes me think about a time where I was a player, and and there's maybe a lesson to be learned, but I didn't see it because of the age I was at, or lack of experience or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. You're sitting there imagining yourself in front of your team talking,
Yeah, no, I certainly think a lot about if there's a conversation I want to have or something I feel like a player needs to hear or maybe needs to learn without hearing or whatever it is. I'm pretty mindful on that. But something that you do that I don't experience too often is you seem to prepare yourself for what if someone shows up today acting a certain way? Or what if someone asks me a certain type of question? And I find that I don't naturally think about that. I'll be prepared if I plan to have the conversation, but there's certainly times where a player comes up and like this happened on Sunday. A player who had been not performing badly. I mean, the numbers might not have been good over the last couple games, but he was hitting some balls hard, putting in play, and he had made some improvements from the 2 or 3 games before that. So he wasn't necessarily on my radar as like he's struggling right now, and I wasn't mentally prepping for a conversation that I would maybe initiate, whether that was me telling them something or asking a question or whatever. And he just shows up and he's like, hey, what do you see is going wrong with me right now? And I'm sort of like,
Oh,
well, I have some thoughts, but I wasn't I wasn't prepping for that conversation to happen at that point like that. So I was like, "What do you think?" And he's like, "I want to know what you know." I was like, "Or what you think?" Okay. I was like, "Before let's do anything, like let's just watch the video together and go through." And then I kind of took it into in the back of my head, I was like, I feel he's pretty late, but I want to confirm that, and I want him to see. So we went through that and had that discussion. So probably did okay with the discussion, but certainly was not. I wasn't on my radar that hey, when I walk into the cage today, someone might show up and be like, "Hey, what you got?" As much as we're trying to be prepared and look through guys' swings, and I have a whole list of notes and whatnot on what each guy, from a mechanical standpoint, should look through, and then I take notes every game about what their timing's like and all those sorts of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm uh, like proactive with what happens if this. Where I know that just from talking with you over the years, you'll be thinking about that pretty active. So it's interesting to me.
yeah. I don't know. I think I've always been somebody where in my friend group, um, I don't know. I've always just been that kind of a person, and same thing for my teammates. I was kind of just checking in with guys. You know, always giving just attention to people on the team in different ways, whether it's serious conversation about something baseball related or something not so baseball related. Um, and even for guys now, I think about too. I think about the guys that aren't necessarily everyday players that are bench players or younger guys that are not we're not planning to have on the field very much. Just letting them know that they're part of the team and that they're cared about, and that when they show up every day, they're around people that care about them. And because they're not on the field every day doesn't mean that they don't get to have a relationship with you, you know?
Yeah, that's certainly something that was one of the things I didn't have much planned for this podcast. I was just like, hey, let's go. But something in the back of my mind was like curious if, because I haven't spoken to you about this in 5 or 6 weeks, if there's anything that's come up where you've maybe shifted your perspective or had some things that you're maybe thinking about improving. And on that list for me is being a bit more. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it, but find ways to have those like off the cuff conversations about random things with guys.
That's just how my
Which I
fucking brain is, bro. I don't
even
know.
just from like logistically, just the way that the day's structured, it's if it's a one-on-one time, it's scheduled for a purpose. Otherwise, it's in group settings, and it's like I don't have enough time with guys, so it's constantly trying to do this and that. And if a guy or two's not playing, and I'm like, hey, I want to show him something, or hey, this, then I will when we're on defense, I'll pull them in the dugout and talk to them about certain things. But there's guys that I'm coaching right now where I know they're from X state because I've like heard that or I've read that somewhere, but I haven't talked to them about that at all.
Yeah.
Which in the past couple of years in the rehab setting, that was super easy because I would hit with someone and then they would have to rest. And if there was maybe another guy or not, or just be like me and them, or in a one-on-one lesson, like a private lesson, like that was the time to do that. So it'd be asking about like, oh, where they're from. Do you play in this league? Oh, do you know so and so? What was that like? And you start to like, I do that first before coaching,
Yeah.
whereas now I'm in coaching environment. Players are like, I'm the hitting coach, and they're working through something, and they'll ask, and we're talking about their timing, and I'm like, I barely even know what this guy's family's like. I don't really know where he's from, other than somewhere in the Midwest. Like, so time for those things is feels lacking. So that's something I'm eager to figure out.
Yeah. I mean, our to use an example, our conversations with my conversations with people like that is it can go from talking about what a dude ate for dinner to something serious about their swing. Or I have a good relationship with the younger guys on the team, and like I do. I told you and like months ago that I freaking love our freshmen. I think they're so fun to be around, and they dick around and they say funny shit, and they come up with these different songs, and they're always asking me questions and stuff that are unrelated. And then the same kid who you have a little bit of a funny, lighthearted relationship with sits down next to me. He's like, yo, seriously, for a second, what do you think about me? Like, how do you think I look in the infield right now? Because he's a guy who's kind of utility in the outfield and then moving to the infield and stuff. And I'm like, you look good, straight up. Like, I haven't seen you much to your backhand, but, you look comfortable going to your left. And so I like that. I think because of the relationship that we've established, he felt comfortable asking me that, which was good. And I also know a big reason for why I think it's important to be like that is I always want people to be improving, that idea that you might not be you're not an everyday player, but you still need to be trying to get better for yourself, because you're going to want to be an everyday player at some point in your college career. But you're not playing every day. It's easy. You're not in the plan to play at all this year. So, it's hard, man. You're a freaking human being. It's easy to sort of not check out, but say to yourself, you know what, man? Like, I'm just gonna fucking try to hit the ball hard in batting practice today. I'm just gonna try to fucking not make an error in the field, instead of having some serious intent behind those reps. If I have that established relationship, and that freshman or that, backup player, so to speak, looks like shit or it doesn't look great, I can say, like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Whereas if I'm just kind of not paying attention to him, when we're taking BP and I'm skipping over him in my fungo reps or whatever, and he's just like, oh, he doesn't fucking care about me. He's just making sure the starters get reps. Or when I'm throwing BP to the third or fourth group during batting practice, if I'm just, kind of rolling through, not giving a shit, and what, like that just, it's kind of like, why the fuck am I going to listen to this guy? This guy doesn't give a shit about me. But the fact is, straight up, I do care about those guys. I want those guys to have a quality experience, whether they're an everyday player or a backup for 4 years, or they're a freshman and they're just trying to, find a role on the team. I care about all of them. I really can say that with the utmost confidence. Probably the guys that I don't interact with, I can't even say that. I was going to say that some guys that I don't interact with are like pitchers that don't get innings, but I do. I chat with those guys, and that could be, pitchers love to golf. So I talk to pitchers about, golfing probably more than
When are
most of
you
the
having
position
these
players.
conversations?
Um, like if we're inter squatting and I'm behind the turtle, and then they're coming over just to watch. If we're doing like a hack attack scrimmage, which we do a good amount of the time, and I'm behind the turtle. If during a game, if we're hitting, if we're on offense, and it's not too, I guess, intense of a situation, they might grab my ear in passing, or if it's before a game, before practice, in between games, after practice. A lot of times before practice, honestly. A lot of times before games. A lot of times, during BP. Because I like to use pitchers as an example. I always have pitchers with me if I'm doing fungo work somewhere. So I always have a pitcher catching for me. So I'll bullshit with them. But once that common interest is established in some way, like guys love to talk about fucking video games or weightlifting, or I even there's even a relief pitcher we have that's a coach too. He's a travel coach, and he likes to come pick my ear about what it's like to coach travel baseball, because I've been doing it for 10 years, and I had him as a player when he was playing travel ball. So just I think I've also kind of established that I'm that person that you can come to if you want to talk to about things like that, or really anything. Fucking music, movies, shows. There's guys on the team that follow me on Instagram, and I post those like medieval knight memes where it's,
Yep.
you know what I'm talking about. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I've had guys come up to me and be like, dude, I fucking feel that, bro. I feel that. I really feel like we're supposed to be. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. But, because I have that relationship, there are even times where I can be like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, I can't talk. We're not talking about this right now. Let's go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
But I like having that role. I like being that kind of a person, because we're all just dudes out there just trying to live life, and we happen to like playing baseball and being around baseball, and we're trying to win and stuff. But there's people behind the baseball player, believe it or not.
Of course, and that's the reason this all gets so rewarding, is
Yeah,
because once that guy that you've had those conversations with has some success or overcomes something, then you're proud of them, and you've like kind of earned the right to be proud of them because you actually have a connection with them.
yeah.
Um,
You feel it. You feel it. You feel
yeah,
in the moment when they're getting that, you know, that at bat in a game that's lopsided one way or another, or it's just a non-conference game that we're trying to see what they got. Just hey, let's put a feeler out and see, flip them in a bat or two and see what it looks like. You feel it, you know. And I'm definitely big on having guys that are quote unquote starters being supportive of those guys when they get their opportunities, because that shit's important. These are the guys that, our starters do take care of equipment and they move things around and set things up and clean up dugouts. They do that stuff too. But, a lot of times they're like, you got freshmen and you got bench guys that are doing charts and they're doing this and they're doing that. And I'll give those fucking guys credit, man. They do it so well and it's so useful. And I can't stress that enough. Yeah, see, that's like, this is the thing, right? So we're talking about these kinds of roles and these kinds of things and charts. And I cannot wait for the opportunity where we're either having a post game or pre-practice, post-practice conversation. I want to make sure I take time to thank the guys for taking care of those charts. I that's something that we're talking about. Like that's what the stuff that I think about. Like, I want those guys to know that I have gratitude for them taking care of that stuff, because that shit matters, And the reason why I think it's important to bring something like that up is not only just to put in the faces of the guys that are starting, that are getting the information, that are using the information to help win us baseball games. It's important for them to have an appreciation for it so they can just straight up go up to those guys and say, yo, thank you, or something like that. Whether they do or they don't, it's kind of up to them. But on the flip side of it, it's when those guys that are doing those charts, when those guys that are taking care of that monotonous bullshit are now not monotonous, you don't understand what I mean, but when those guys are in starting roles, they can make sure that other people are taking care of it, that those new freshmen, those new underclassmen, those new quote unquote bench guys are taking care of it because they know how useful that information is, and they'll treat those guys the right way. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like a domino effect. You treat somebody the right way. If you start off setting that precedent, you can only hope, because you're operating under an assumption. But you can only hope that it creates this domino effect of appreciation and an environment that I think, Cap talks about it the best, that culture. That's really how you develop a culture.
Yeah, no, it's all of those in between activities, like off the cuff, unplanned interactions that can completely make a difference. And I
Yeah.
feel like in my role in particular, it's not happening right now. I need to find creative ways to seek those out. Just the way that the day's structured, it's like from, let's say there's a 7 o'clock game from like 1 p.m. until 11 p.m. I barely have 20 minutes, or 10 minutes for anything. And it's like, oh, I got to get this done, I got to get this done. It's just, I'm like either rushing, trying to get a player everything he needs before he has to leave, or I'm like, they're hitting BP and I'm focused on watching and making sure I'm ready for the next conversation. It's like that downtime is so important.
Yeah.
Because it makes those more serious interactions like mean more. And in rehab, that was so easy because it was more downtime than real time. So then, or like work for them because of the limit on what they could do and everything. So it was more of the other stuff. And then when it was like, hey, do this, it was 10% of what we were talking about. And it stuck because they knew I was, caring about them. And then, those are my favorite guys because I had been, they had been a difficult part and they've gone through it and I see them and they're like my favorites aren't oh, he's our number 3 prospect. Let me make sure I go say hello to him so he knows who I am. Like, I don't care. It's the guy that had been in rehab for 2 years on and off with different things and bad luck and a rough go of it. And finally he's playing and it's like, I'll go and give him a hug in front of everyone. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I'm craving that right now.
Yeah. Sometimes listen, it's a little bit of a you might have to sacrifice some of the more seemingly important time, for that, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I've been saying this actually. I said this a little bit last week in regards to the kids that come to lessons and stuff, and I talked about this kid earlier today, where he's that 7th grade kid who he talked about how he wanted to start seeing some velocity and stuff, and I was just describing to him what exactly it means to come to lessons, or what exactly me training him is going to turn into moving forward, is more of, let's make shit difficult. Let's obviously practice the movements and get better at making the movements and everything, but let's make things difficult in here and challenge ourselves so when you get to the game it's easy, and I can say stuff like that to him, or I can say things like, dude, listen to your fucking dad, or if he's being a shit, I can be like, dude, like, let's go. So does like, because I've also been that guy where if he wants to come in and sing fucking like I forget if he wants to sing Country Roads while he starts off the tee, I'm gonna let him because he, because I don't know, because but the point that I'm making is I don't question that that kid wants to be here. Where I think the common misconception is, this kid's hitting off the tee singing "Country Roads Take Me Home." Like he's not paying attention. He doesn't take this seriously. Like what? The kid's playing travel baseball. He's playing fall travel baseball. He's playing middle school baseball. He's going to lessons every week for hitting and pitching. And yeah, you can say, yeah, well, that's what his dad pays for. But the attention is there. He cares when he doesn't do well. He cares when he does well. He cares all the time. If the fucking kid wants to sing Country Roads while he starts off the tee, fine. If before my designated hitter gets up, because again, this is a guy who is one of the best hitters of all time at our school. If he wants to come over to me and have a side conversation unrelated to baseball before his at bat, like fucking, if that makes him more comfortable, sure, let's do it. Like if he wants to, because he'll in 15, 20 minutes later come and be like, how did my load look? Did my swing look? You know what I'm saying? Like it's one does not mean the other, and vice versa. Because you're not messing around a little bit doesn't mean you're, doesn't mean that you're super focused and you're such a good baseball player. And on this other side of it, it's just because you like to fuck around a little bit doesn't mean you're not focused, and doesn't mean you don't want to do well. It's supposed to be fun. I'm just not. Listen, these guys, everybody that I work with, whether they're college baseball players or they're the middle school kid, they're there for a reason. They're there to work. I don't like this idea that these kids nowadays, that they don't like to work. It's what they're doing. They're freaking showing up every day. Like Elliot, we'll talk about this one, I'm sure, when Elliot comes on, but Elliot's least favorite thing is when fucking, dude, the fucking dugout needs to be louder. Like, with the dugout is not, like, bro, do something exciting and the dugout will get excited, bro. You know what I mean? Like, these guys, they want to be here. It's the fucking baseball game. We've struck out 11 times. It's 1-0. Like, it's or it's 6-0. We're getting beat and we've struck out 11 times. Like, do something exciting, bro. And then the dugout will get loud. Like, man. But these people, they want to be there. It's Division III baseball at a local school. These guys want to be there every day. It's a private lesson. This guy comes and sees you every week. This guy wants to be here. Maybe if you don't think he understands something, maybe it's just because you bore him. Maybe it's because he doesn't understand what you're talking about, and all you talk about is his swing and how important it is that he gets to this position, and he's dealing with the same pattern of learning when he goes to school. Well, you got this math equation wrong because in the second step of PEMDAS, you forgot to carry the two. Like, okay, no shit. And then it just glazes over, and all right, the period's over. Time to go to social studies. Like, make yourself more interesting. Make what you're doing more interesting. Make yourself relatable. I say to kids all the time, I say to little kids all the time, dude, I get that you want to do stuff right now, but I need you to show me that you understand what we're doing, right? Because otherwise, what are we really doing? I was like, and then I'm going to go back there and throw BP to you and try to strike you out 800 times. I'm going to see how many times I can strike you out after we talk about this. I'll say that to my little guys. And they'll, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to do this, and then he'll show me, and then, all right, I'm going to strike you out now. No, you're not going to strike me out. Okay, all right, let's see it. So just make yourself more interesting.
Well said. I don't really have much to
Yeah. I don't know. This shit's supposed to be fun, man. That's why I'm sitting here at midnight talking to my best friend about this. That's why, when I go out and I hang out with Mark and we go out to dinner and stuff, this is why we talk about it. It's what we talk about. Because it's fun. It's how it's supposed to be. And, when I'm talking with yourself, I'm talking to a guy who works in professional baseball. When I'm talking to Mark, I'm talking to a guy who was, one of the best hitters I ever played with. And, that guy liked to fucking have fun. Oh. Oh no. I feel like I learned the most as a hitter when I was at an indoor sports facility with, 2 to 7 of my other friends, and we're just kind of throwing shit up against the wall until something sticks in regards to hitting with no coaches around. I felt like we found out more things than anything, Hey, maybe try this with your hands. That didn't work. It's just that level of interest. So, I just think that when you're in the midst of a season, it's about maintaining that interest. It's about making them want to come back to the yard every day, whether that's for a practice or a game. It's about, listen, you're not playing today, but you have a good IO, you have a good BP today, you're going to make the team look a little bit better as a whole. When that other team's rolling up and they're watching Group 3 and Group 4 hitting, you're fucking putting balls in the gap, you're hitting run round, your situational round's good, you're running the bases well during BP, you're taking good ground balls during IO, you made the team look better, And I'm not saying it's going to translate to the win column, but if you're hitting like shit during BP and then you're contributing to a shitty IO, I don't think that's setting the momentum off in a good way, That's how I thought about it. And I wanted to, when I was in those later groups in college, I wanted to fucking, I don't know, it may sound silly, but I wanted to hit more home runs than the starting catcher and then be like, yo, I fucking put more balls out in batting practice for you than you today. And I know you got more juice than me. And I know you're going to play, and you're going to play tomorrow, and you're going to play the next day, and I'm not. I'm going to be in the bullpen, but I fucking beat you today. I hit more home runs than you and BP. Fuck you. So that's just, I don't know, that's just how I felt about it. I want it to be fun. And then it adds more, when we're doing a BP scrimmage off the pitching machine and the teams are kind of split up. Dude, last week we barely had any games. We had not last week, the week before. We had no non-conference games. We just played 2 games on Saturday. So we did blue and gold games. The teams are split up. It wasn't like starters versus backups or anything like that. It was a steady mix. Dude, it was some of the most fun that I've seen our guys have. Talking shit, just coming up with different things to say to each other. Had guys that, it was a catcher that we don't want catching too much because he's catching the bulk of the games, or maybe a guy that's on the IL kind of coaching the teams, and they're coming up with their own fucking signs and stuff. It's that's what it's all about, bro. So
good time over at St. Joe's.
Yeah, man, it is. It is. I take a lot of pride in that. It's a fucking awesome group of guys. It really is. It's the same way last year. We had a really nice group of kids and a really good group of guys. It makes it easy to go to work. It's fun to talk about them. But wherever you are out there, you can make your team like that too. You can do that stuff. I get it, man. I get it. I've coached travel baseball a very long time. Coached high school baseball for, 5-6 years, whatever it was. I know what it feels like to be like, dude, we can't hit curveballs. We gotta do the curveball machine. Our cutoffs suck. We need to work on our relays. But I've also been that coach where I was like, you know what? These guys are kind of fucking acting like a bunch of entitled assholes. hey guys, you're running practice tomorrow. The coaches and I are going to be sitting down and doing nothing. You're running practice. And the only reason why I really wanted to do that, and I got to experience it, which was the best part, it was the best, I was so happy to see it, was them trying to transition from doing one thing to the next, getting guys to just fucking move their asses and get the field screens on, get the L screen on, move the pitching machine here, and watching them struggle to do that. They learned. They learned logistically, like how annoying logistics shit is. This is taking too long. The only thing I really said to them during practice, this is taking too long. This is taking too long. And then they're just like, this is taking too long. So I don't be afraid to shake things up. I get it, man. Again, I want things to look a certain way. I want the defense to be crisp. I want the pitchers to pour strikes in. And I want the hitters to put the ball forward. But, they have to want to be there. And that's part of the job too, whether you want to admit it or not. It's not just I'm coach, so listen to me. There is a part of that. And there is a serious value in teaching players that, hey, trust me, like I grew up you grew up in it too, the because I told you so type of way. There, you need that. I am still a guy sometimes where, because this is the why generation, the kids, this is the why, because I fucking told you to. But I'll tell you what, saying because I fucking told you to is valid when I do all the other things that I mentioned previously. I can say to guys because I fucking told you to, and then, okay, there's no second why with me. Because I am the person that will take time. Sometimes because of this, and because this is what this needs to look like, and this is why, or you need to do this because if this guy's not covering and this guy don't back up, the ball gets here and then that guy gets to another, But I have the buying power to say, but because I fucking told you to, dude, shut up, let's go. Like, you do that, you do one or the other all the time, you lose them. You gotta, like we said earlier, you need to be what you need to be when you need to be it. And Kyle's falling asleep. You're falling asleep.
It's late.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But again, I guess to kind of wrap things up, I'm excited for us moving forward. I'm sure towards the end of this, I know we got some guests lined up for the following weeks. Really excited for next week's guest. I think he'll have a lot to talk about. I think he'll have a lot to talk about, a lot of insight. Covers many levels of baseball. So, and just a good friend and a good mentor, I think, to the both of us. So, so he'll be a lot of fun. And then I'm sure there'll be a point in time where we can. I'm sure by the time I talk about St. Joe's like this again, it'll pretty much be a wrap-up type of conversation. I think we got like 13 games left or so before the conference tournament, which is crazy to say. Crazy to say, man. Quick. That shit flew, but that's how it is. So, say it one more time. Shout out to those guys. It's been a lot of fun thus far, and I'm hoping we get to do everything that we want to do this year. I think that this is a special group of players, and it's a group that I love to be around. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that they do treat me with the level of respect that I've kind of alluded to in my fucking rant today. but I look forward to getting back on next week. And I look forward to just doing this more frequently because I miss being here. And thanks to the people that came back to listen to this episode and that'll be tuning in moving forward. I miss those conversations around these podcasts. That shit does mean a lot to me. So I wanted to say thank you guys because your feedback has been it's been really nice. It's been really nice to hear. It's been energizing, man. You get somebody to fucking, yo, I heard this. It's such a fucking cool feeling. Such a cool feeling. So I appreciate you guys so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited that we're back. We're back moving. We got to get some guests on. And yeah, we're back, dude.
We are fucking so back, baby.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too.